I'm going to use a number 9 gouge to put in the scales, stabbing them in like this. Make sure we get it the right way so that the scales lead backwards. Don't make the mistake of putting the scales in the wrong way round. And I'm not going to cover the whole fish. I'm just going to cover an area from about here towards this, the top of the operculum here, along here, just to about there. So I'm just going to cover a top area so you can see it when you're looking down at it. So I'm going to put my first stab cut in here, and remember it's this way round. So I'm going to put one on the halfway line like that, and then another one here, and then another one there. Then I'm just going to stab along like this. Where I need a half scale, if you like, I'll find a tool that's sort of matching this curve as close as possible. So if this curve and this curve are more or less the same, then this one could go in here, for example, and stab that in. And so you can just add this extra little bit here. And that's it really. I'm just going to quietly add these together as I go along. I've matched the scales on both sides so they look as if they flow around the fin. The last thing we need to do is just wipe this over with 320, something like that, a very fine paper, just so that it feels tactile here. That's it. The barbels, which are little feelers that the koi uses on the bottom when it's searching around in the mud, will fit on either side of the mouth here. So what I've done is I've created a little depression at the side of the mouth here, and then I'll just merge that in with some sandpaper. I then drilled a hole into that depression like so, so that when I glue the barbel in here, it'll actually clear the background, so it mustn't touch the wall, so we need to check that. So I've made these barbels from little pieces of wood, which I've just whittled with a knife, the same knife as I've used elsewhere, a little Sloyd knife. I've whittled that, sanded it, and I've made them a little bit bent, do you see? So they're not straight, they're not like horns, and each side will be a little bit different. So I'll just glue that in there nicely, and then I've got one somewhere for the other side. Here it is. This is the second one, slightly different shape. The first thing we need to do to hang this fish is to establish a vertical on the back. So I've got a spirit level here, and I've checked the bubble, and we're completely vertical. Then you probably need help for this, somebody to eye it through, and then you arrange your fish on the edge of the spirit level, whichever way you want it. And then, with a pencil, you draw down that flat bit, the flat bit that we've left, you draw a vertical line. And then you have the vertical line down the back here. Here's the vertical line I've drawn down here. But before we go any further, we need to get rid of this hole from the carver's screw. So I've made a little tapered dowel that will go in here, and with a little bit of wood glue, I usually like to put it in the hole as much as anywhere. On here. So I'm going to tap that home. draw it off, and then I'll just clean up that surface. Great, so now we're ready to think about the escutcheon plates. This is an escutcheon plate. It's the little brass plate that goes over a keyhole. These I've chosen to fit this countersink Forstner bit, and I'll put a few notes about them in the download. Now I like to use them instead of like a keyhole plate like that. I like to use them upside down. So what happens is when the plate goes over the screw like that, so with the screw in the wall, the plate drops down and locks the carving in position. We're going to need two on this koi carp, because if we only have one, the fish will pivot around and slump off. So we do need two to lock it in place. And these two will go apart a little bit like this. And what's important is that this vertical line we've drawn runs along or is parallel to the edge here of the plate. So we need to put one, say about there, a little bit in from the side, and the other one perhaps over here. So there's a gap between the two parallel lines like this, so that when that's locked in place on the wall, this thing can't turn. So I'm going to mark the first one out here. I think it's going to be here. So I'm just going to mark that like this for the moment. And the second one will be over here, a little bit inside from the edge. Well, let me just show you how actually I'll move this down a little bit because I don't want the screw to go into this end bit here. So I'll just come down here, touch, like that. So that's going to be my second plate. So let's just look at the first one here. We don't need to worry about the orientation at the moment, but we do need to set this back into the wood. So I'm going to get my drill, and I'm going to put my first countersinking hole smack here. Right, so it's just below the surface, so that will fit in there and be flush with the surface. So now I'm going to make sure which way up this is. This is going to be this way around, so that this edge here, the small point, is to the top. And I want to very carefully, with my checking across, make sure that this is, let's move this around a little bit. So this is now parallel, this edge here is parallel to the line. So I'm going to draw in what will be the hole here, so, and then flip the plate out. So now I have to excavate a little hole here for the screw as it comes through. We're going to offer this to the wall, and here's a screw. So I'm going to just make, you can drill these out, but I think it's easier actually, or as a carver I would think it's easier just to use my number 9 gouge and rotate it like this. So we can take this bit out here. So I excavate a hole, and what this will do is just allow the screw to go through the plate and slot up. Then when I've put that back in place, I'll screw that down with a couple of little screws. Right, so there they are. The escutcheon plates are set back in, so we're on the surface of the wall, and this is parallel to this and parallel to the vertical line. So all we need to do now is check the surface and finish the wood with wax. The best way to add wax to this carp, because it's a little bit delicate, is to do the bottom half first, and then we'll sit it on the table itself and do the top half. So I have my wax. This is fairly thin. This is like a yogurt. This is a basic beeswax finish. I've got an old toothbrush. I've got a rag. And I've got my trusty hairdryer. So the method, as always, is to put a bit of the wax on. You can just put this on cold, like so. And you put it on here, you put it everywhere, including the bottom part of the fins. So I will put this over, then I'll get the hairdryer and I'll melt it, and at the same time I'll rub it in, like so. And can you see how that's now really loose and is soaking into the wood? And then I will take off excess on the rag like this, so we'll not have too much. Eventually just have a sheen of wax on it, and I'll make sure with the brush I get into all the crevices and get any clogging of any hard wax out. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll put a lot of this on first, then the hairdryer, and then taking off excess. Oh, and I don't mind about these. I won't worry about getting wax on the escutcheon plates. This wax is tacky for a while, so once you've finished, leave the piece alone, let it all go dry, and then you can burnish it with a rag or a brush. This colour will develop even more as time goes by, but I think generally speaking it looks terrific. And with that, the koi is finished and ready to hang on the wall.